But the truth of the matter is that while the vast majority of trusts were made between the years 2004 and 2007, the total number of audits that the SEC conducted in those 3 years of all of these trusts was 0. They never audited the trust. They never went out and said, did you really get these 5,000 mortgages? Can I see the mortgage documents that you got for each of the loans in this trust? That never happened. This was the years of the Bush administration where the SEC had 2 job vacancies for everyone it filled, and there was a hiring freeze on at the SEC. I don't mean to apologize for the SEC. God knows I don't want to apologize for the SEC, but this was all done on an honor system. So who else is in charge of regulating these trusts? Well, the IRS. The IRS is going to give tax-exempt status to an investment that's valued at between $1 billion and $2 billion. So they're going to pay very careful attention to the documents and whether the trusts are following the rules. No, that didn't happen either. That was also done on an honor system. While the IRS may be very, very diligent about the grocery store on the corner, and whether it got some of its income from improperly letting somebody buy candy bars with food stamps, those kinds of things, these big issue investments are not something that they paid a lot of attention to. You will read now that the SEC and the IRS are both paying a lot of attention to all of this, and that's a grain of salt type thing.
Isn't Wall Street pushing to basically take the SEC oversight over onto themselves? Like they want to basically do away with the SEC.
Well, one of the best indicators of how much influence, it's in a number, but I'm going to say it anyway. During the State of the Union address, we listened to President Obama talk about the new commission he was establishing that's going to really put teeth into the oversight of residential mortgage-backed securities. And he identified certain people who were going to be very, very involved in this new commission and investigation of any wrongdoing. And one of them was Robert Khuzami, K-H-U-Z-A-M-I, who is Director of Investigations for the SEC right now. So when I write all my little endless letters off to the SEC saying this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, sometimes I address my letters to Mr. Khuzami. All right, what did he do before he took this job as head of enforcement for the SEC? Well, for 5 years prior to that, he was the general counsel for Deutsche Bank Americas, and he was in charge of the division that created and sold residential mortgage-backed securities. So you are essentially saying, gee, Mr. Khuzami, we think you should investigate everything you did those prior 5 years. Well, lots of luck with that. So a lot of people believe that, it comes down to this regulation versus deregulation approach to much of what we do. But with securities law, if you put securities on an honor system, then you're going to have people like the people who, on the one hand, describe the investments as pigs and crap, selling it to pension funds. And they have to be regulated. They have to be carefully regulated. And regulated has to mean more than when we catch you doing wrong, we're going to issue you a warning letter. Regulated means there have to be serious consequences when somebody is caught violating the law, not limited to civil consequences.
And it has to have more to do with, instead of you working for Deutsche Bank anymore and you found us in violation or something, we're going to pay you double to come over and work for us.
Yeah, right. If it's, and who else has this history? Well, we do know that our Attorney General, Eric Holder, and the #1 person in the Justice Department, Lonnie Brewer, who enforce criminal laws, both worked for a law firm that made a lot of money advising Fannie and Freddie before they took their current positions in the Justice Department. So a lot of the people in our government right now who are probably angry and embarrassed, they'd like to say they're surprised, but it's probably impossible for them to have been surprised by any of this. They were insiders for many, many years and now are faced with trying to clean up the incredible damage they've done to, I like to say our economy, but damage to our economy really does not describe the 65-year-old woman who has no place to go, who's being thrown out after 30 years in her home, or the nurse with a child, with a special needs child, who has no place to go and her credit is ruined. And you know, so damage to the economy is such a clean way of saying damage to the people who make up this economy. So I think we're on 22. The majority of the securities were issued by the U.S. government, by Ginnie Mae, or by entities. You know, this gets into securities. People love to call them GSE, government-sponsored entities. They like to point out that Fannie and Freddie, which are the acronyms for the Federal Home Loan Mortgage Corporation and Federal National Mortgage Association, aren't really government entities. Well, right, you know, and the Treasury isn't a government entity either, and you know, that's fine for the advanced course on this. For people who I probably would not enjoy sitting with on a Sunday afternoon. But we all know that that's all government money and taxpayer money that's going behind Fannie and Freddie and Ginnie Mae and the Treasury. So I don't think that we fool ourselves any, that when we say that if we had the will to clean this up, it is our money that has created this mess. We could try to take back control of our own money and how it's being used. When these trusts were made, the revenues were predicted to last 25 to 30 years, because most mortgages last 25 to 30 years, and most of the mortgages going into the trusts were brand new mortgages. So when you read through these prospectus and the PSA, you'll see that they have all this language in there about the last payment we think is going to come in the year 2032. Well, lots of luck with that, because that's not, we're going to talk a little bit later about how that's absolutely not going to happen. There's an entity in every trust called the servicer. The servicer is one of the ways most people make money. That's one of the most well-paid positions to hold in the trust. I'm the servicer for the trust, and it doesn't sound like a lot of money. I put down the number 25 here, just lifted from a PSA. Servicer will be paid a monthly fee equal to 1/12 of 0.30% multiplied by the aggregate principal balance of the mortgage loans. Okay, and then it goes up and up as the trust gets a little bit older. Part of the reason it goes up and up is obviously the number of loans in the trust is going to fall off. Even before the real estate, I don't like to say bubble either, but I'll cast a bubble. Even before the real estate crimes really came home to hatch, yeah, the crime bubble, I'll do that. Everybody recognized that if you put 5,000 loans into a trust, it's going to be 5,000 loans 10 years out, because people pay off their mortgages for a variety of reasons. They move up to a bigger house, they move down to a smaller house, their job transfers them to North Dakota, so mortgages get paid off. So the servicer's fees for servicing the loans goes up over the life of the trust to compensate them for the fact that there's going to be fewer and fewer mortgages. With the exception of the very, very corrupt people who were selling this and betting against it at the same time, I don't think anybody anticipated that there would be as few loans left in these trusts as there are now. We've done a lot of research on this. I think we're the only ones who have done a lot of research on it, and we will talk about it. The typical representations that are made to investors, it says, and this is, when you read about representations and warranties lawsuits in the New York Times and the Washington Post right now, these promises that are put forth in the prospectus and the PSA are often called representations and warranties. So that's what that means. And these are some of the things that would be promised. The credit scores for, say there's 7,500 loans, the credit scores for at least 5,000 of those loans will be above 600. At least 7,000 of the loans will not mature for at least 355 months. At least 5,500 of the loans are for single-family detached homes. 65 of the 7,500 loans will have been made to homeowners who will use the homes as their primary residence. And here's a term you'll learn to love, loan-to-value ratio. It just means so the house is worth $100,000. Is the mortgage for $80,000? Is that if you good loan to that? The house is worth 100, but the mortgage is only 80. That means $20,000 was put down by the homeowner. There's $20,000 worth of equity. There's a stake for the homeowner in that house. So those loans that have lowest loan to value are the most favorable type that you want to make. If you've got a 98% loan to value, it means you've let somebody move in for, you know, 400 down, and good luck to you all. But so we're saying, and the current mortgage rates, and this is absolutely true for this Soundview Home Loan Trust, for at least 70% of the loans were between 7% and 10%. That was not unheard of 4 years ago. So here's my graphic. All those loans. I have a bug on my graphic.
Oh no.
All those loans that are just perfect like that, 80% loan to value ratio, primary residence, credit scores of 650 or above, are represented by the blue dots. Okay, so if you are an investment manager looking to invest in a pool of loans, by God, this looks good. This is 100 loans, and look at all those blue dots. Boy, there's not much of anything. Okay, so the green ones, maybe their credit score was 600. The yellow ones, maybe their credit score was 500 and they don't plan to live in that house. And the red ones, maybe it was something called an income stated loan, which means we promise not to check on the truth of anything you said in your loan application. That's a stated income loan. Whatever you state your income is, by God, we'll believe that. So obviously, there's a full documentation loan on this end of the spectrum, right? Where every little debt you've ever had is pawed over by somebody very carefully. I don't see here where you paid off your student loan from when you graduated in 1971, Miss Simonia, to a stated income loan. Whatever you tell us, Lynn, you made $2 million last year working as a landscaper? God, good for you. You did really good, Lynn. You know, so that's a stated income loan.